Here is a page that I've made in Illustrator CS3. The functions in CS3 are the same as in other versions of Illustrator, especially versions later than CS3. Here we'll crop two images with different magnifications to the same size, and we'll crop two different areas. So let's start by placing the first image. You don't open it, you place it. When you place an image, you then don't run into problems with memory. So we'll place this image. This is image A. We'll place that, and you'll notice immediately that it's way too large for the letter-sized page. And so rather than try to find the ends and manually do this, we'll simply what I'll simply do is type in width for this image, and I'll just arbitrarily choose 90 millimeters. And as long as this link icon has the brackets on it, it will also change the height. So as it turns out, this is 90 millimeters by 90 millimeters, and I'll simply move it into the upper right corner just for now. And then I'll open up a second image, again using place, and the second image will likely open at the same size. I must have made a mistake here and not opened the second image. And again, I'll type in 90 millimeters, and that will make it the same approximate size as the other one. Actually, these two images are the same aspect ratio, but I want different crops from each one of those. So the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out, okay, what crop do I want for these images? And you could simply draw with your rectangle tool over the approximate area that you believe you want. And you know, for this, I'm just really looking at the single cell. And so I don't really want that large a crop at all. And if I wanted to see just the outlined area and I don't want it filled, then I would click on the fill box in the toolbar and then click the strikeout red tool. Then click on the stroke bar and click on the fill tool to the left. And then that would give me just a little bit of an outline so I could see what it is that I'm cropping. And then I'd go in to the next image and say to myself, okay, well really for this image I need to see all the way across it. I think I'd like to include, just for matters of making this figure, we'll just say we want it that big. So clearly this image includes more of a cropped area than this image, the image on the left. And so what we would want to do, and I'm going to now zoom in so you could see better, what we're going to want to do then is really make this image the same size as this cropped image. So to do that, first of all, we would crop we'll call this image A on the left, image B on the right. So first what we'll do is crop image B on the right, since we're happy with that particular crop. But before we crop it, let's get rid of the crop that we have here for image A by clicking on it, and then I'm just going to hit the delete button to get rid of it. And then let's take this cropped rectangle, highlight it, and then let's duplicate that, simply by copying it and then by pasting, and then by doing a paste in front. And then we can simply move that off into over to this side so that we have the same cropped area. And then we'll go back to image B. We'll click on the background of image B to select the image, and then hold down the Shift key and click on the rectangle. And then under Object, Clipping Mask, we'll make a clipping mask. So now we've cropped this to the size that we want to publish at. So this would probably be a top and bottom image rather than a side-by-side image, and so let's just call image B, we'll call image B the bottom image, and then image A will go above it. But as it turns out, for image A, we don't really want to include all these red blood cells because they're extraneous. Really what we want to see is this single cell in the middle. So we want to keep the same aspect ratio as this rectangle, so when we enlarge this to match image B, we'll have the same aspect ratio. So the best way to do that is to click on the rectangle tool, click on the right part of the image, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. But the best way to do that then is to select and click on one of the corners. While there's a double arrow, click, hold down the shift key, and then make your rectangle a little smaller. And I'm going to make it as small as I believe I need to in order to give the viewers enough information about the red blood cells around this, what I believe is an erythrocyte. And so I'm going to include only this much of the image A area, and again hold down the shift key, click on the image behind it, and then under object I'm going to then go to clipping mask, and I'm going to make a clipping mask, and then I'll zoom back and align this image over the other image. Now what would be really ideal would now be to use the transform tool to just simply type in a value here, but the value that's here is actually of the outer rectangle and not the inner rectangle. So the best way to approach this then is to use the transform tool, and then hold down the shift key and scale this up. And I'm going to keep scaling it until the edges are at the same distance apart. And then to fine tune it, I'll just simply type in a new value in the transform box to fine tune it and get it to the point at which it matches the one below it. Okay, so now it's matched, or at least it's close enough for my purposes. And we see that we have done successfully what we had hoped to do, which is place one above the other at the same cropping, same format. But what we would want to do next is we've obviously resized the image on the top. So that means that the scale bar for the image on the top is no longer at the right length. So now that we have these aligned, and just being a little more anal about this, I think I'll add another millimeter to make sure that I've got these a little better lined up. To then get the scale bars correct, I would click on the top image, under Object, Clipping Mask. I'm going to release the clipping mask. This will now give me the scale bar from the original image. And then I can zoom in on that, see that it's a 10 micron bar, and then with the measure tool, which is right under the eyedropper tool, I can measure that length by clicking on one end and then drawing to the other end. And in my info box, and if I hold down the shift key, it'll be a straight line. In my info box, it tells me it's 12 millimeters approximately, rounded off. So now I can draw the scale bar over again. And to do that, I'll zoom back by clicking on the magnifying tool and then clicking on the Alt Option key and holding it down. And I will again go back to the object and make the clipping mask so I can go back to where I was. I'll zoom in again, and then I'll make a scale bar. So to make a scale bar, I'll use the line tool and hold down the Shift key, and while I'm drawing the line tool, I'll simply just draw it as long as I feel like I want to, and then type in the correct value in the width. And I will need to stroke this to make the line. So my stroke box is in the foreground of the toolbox. So I'll want to fill that in by clicking on the left small icon under it. And then in the stroke box, in the stroke palette, I'm going to want to increase the weight. And I'll increase it to 4 pixels. And we know that these 4 pixels represent 10 microns. So we'll label that and put in 10. And we're going to do 10 mm, and I'll show you, and we'll change one of the fonts here. If we go into character, we'll change one of these fonts to symbol, and that will give you the micron symbol. And usually the micron symbol is a little small, so I add a couple of pixels to it by increasing its size. And then on the other letters, if I highlight those, I can then change that to Arial. And the 10 should also be Arial. Or Helvetica if you're on a Mac. And then I'll want to make sure these are actually white. So I'll click on the fill tool and make sure that these are white, that the lettering's white. And then I can move that lettering down to the top of the scale bar so that it's lettered. And now when I zoom back, I can hold down the Alt Option key. You can see that I've included that scale bar. I might have made it a little large, but this gives you an idea of how you do that. And then you'd repeat the same process for the image that's on the bottom. And then you'd have your figure with 2 boxes aligned. And when you go into the saving the Illustrator file video, you can learn then how to crop this and save it appropriately. Let's say you've included your other scale bar down in image B, but now what you'd like to do is to size these so that they're at the correct width for publication. To do that, you would select everything, so select all, and that would select everything in this image, including the top and the bottom image. And then you would want to group those together so that when you move one box, you move everything. And then I'm just going to zoom back a little bit and move these up into the top right corner. And let's say that we want this publication image to be 84 millimeters across to fit across a single column. Then what we would do is under View, we would want to show rulers. These rulers should be in millimeters, since that's what I set when I set up my page. And I'm just going to zoom in to show where you might then find 84 millimeters across the rulers. And then you can, from one end of the ruler bar, you can drag a guideline and put that on 84. As it turns out, with some great fortune, it actually is cropped to 84. So just to make this more difficult, let's say we needed to really crop this to 74 in order to fit a single column. And now I'll zoom back, click on the magnifier tool, hold down the Alt or Option key. Again, I would want to select all to make sure everything is selected. And then I can use the Transform tool to make the image smaller, just as I did earlier. But I'm going to have to zoom back just a little further in order to do that, since I don't have a handle to hang on to here. Let's try this, but I don't think, and hold down the Shift key when you do it. No, I'm actually moving the image. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit here. And then again, go to the Transform tool, click, hold down the Shift key, and then keep moving this until I get to the point at which I have it sized correctly. And expand it ever so slightly. And that fits then the required width. I can go to the Save As video to show how you would then save this for publication.